you are absolutely allowed to post anything that is public record, such as mugshots, indictments, court documents, anything like that, and give your opinion. But what you're not allowed to do is post anything that is a false statement that is damaging to someone's reputation. And I've seen a lot of it, so I'm going to set the record straight. Josh was absolutely upfront with me about everything in the charges. There were no secrets. I know everything. I have been to court. I know everything.
An influencer couple built a brand around yachts and picture-perfect getaways, but behind their curated content, Joshua Stapleton was hiding a disturbing secret, one that just secured him a 5-year prison sentence for child sexual exploitation. We are going to break down the details of this case and what his wife is now saying in response. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. The Gulf Coast Stapleton social media accounts portrayed a picture of a couple living their dream life on the water, traveling the world, documenting every envy-inducing moment for their 80,000 plus TikTok followers. But behind the glossy Instagram posts and the viral TikTok videos, Joshua David Stapleton was harboring a terrifying secret. This week, the 39-year-old influencer was sentenced to 5 years in prison, followed by 15 years of probation, after pleading guilty to 20 counts of sexual exploitation of children. Now, the case, which unfolded over 4 years, reveals a disturbing dichotomy between Stapleton's public persona and his private actions. The case against Stapleton started in 2020 when the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force received a tip about suspicious online activity, and the Cartersville Police Department's Criminal Investigations Division, alongside the GBI, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, launched a multi-year investigation that would ultimately bring him to justice. According to court documents that were obtained by Fox 5 Atlanta, investigators found that between December 31st, 2018 and April 23rd, 2020, quite a significant period of time there, Joshua Stapleton downloaded files containing child sexual abuse material. The arrest affidavit includes particularly disturbing details about one image that was uploaded from his AOL account on New Year's Eve in 2018. The affidavit says, quote, Stapleton did knowingly, willfully, and unlawfully have in his or her possession or control any material which depicts a minor or a portion of a minor's body engaged in any sexually explicit conduct. Said accused did upload from his AOL.com account and onto an electronic device an explicit photo of a juvenile appearing to be under the age of 16, nude and posed in a sexually explicit manner. Said photo was uploaded on December 31st, 2018 at 6:28 a.m. So they got the specifics there. We've been following this story from the beginning. And you know, one of the reasons that we can do this to really dive into these cases and stories is because of the amazing support that we get from our sponsors like Upside. Now, Upside is great. It is a free app that gets cash back when you buy daily essentials. So I pump my gas, I can use Upside. I go out to lunch, I can use Upside. Get something at a convenience store, I can use Upside. And why not get cash back when I do all these things, right? Yes, this is real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. So once you have the free Upside app, you claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You pay as usual using a debit or credit card. You follow the steps on the app, you get paid. So to find out how much you can earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen. And make sure to use our promo code SIDEBAR because you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Now, just as a legal aside, this conduct apparently falls under Georgia's strict child exploitation law, specifically OCGA 16-12-100. It's a statute that makes it a felony offense to simply possess such material. There's no requirement that the defendant distributed it to others. So to be convicted under this specific section, prosecutors have to prove that a defendant knowingly had access to or maintained the illegal material and that the material shows a minor engaged in sexual conduct. The penalties under this statute range from 5 to 20 years in prison, mandatory sex offender registration, strict limitations in internet use and contact with minors. And in Stapleton's case, these legal consequences would soon become his harsh reality. And we are going to examine in detail when we review his sentencing. But for now, we got to go back to the arrest affidavit. So following the investigation, prosecutors presented their case to a Bartow County magistrate judge who swiftly approved the arrest warrant. In fact, the warrant's language left no room for ambiguity. It reads, "For sufficient cause made known to me in the above affidavit, you are hereby commanded to arrest the accused, Joshua David Stapleton." And so on April 24th, 2020, authorities took Stapleton into custody, booking him into the Bartow County Jail. Now, while his initial charges weren't publicly listed in jail records, reporting reveals that he first faced 15 counts of child pornography possession. But honestly, this was just the beginning, because as investigators dug deeper, the case expanded dramatically. A grand jury would later return a 40-count indictment for sexual exploitation of children. But in a negotiated plea deal, Stapleton ultimately admitted guilt to 20 counts in exchange for the remaining charges being dropped. And the final sentence that was handed down by Bartow County Superior Court included 5 years in prison, 15 years probation, and mandatory sex offender registration. Okay, to break it all down, let me bring back here on Sidebar Meg Strickler, Georgia criminal defense attorney. Meg, thanks so much for coming back here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, you got it. So how typical is it for a case like this to take, first of all, let's start here, 2018 to 2020, how hard is it to detect that? I mean, is that strange that he could be engaging in this behavior and having possession of this material for what, a 2-year time span?
It's actually normal, and I think the word of the day would be bureaucracy. Because remember, AOL probably sent some sort of flag to law enforcement. Law enforcement now needed to figure out who owned the AOL account and then who accessed it. So then you have to do a subpoena to the internet service provider, and then you got to execute a search warrant. So it's step by step by step, and unfortunately you have to have government authorities with that, and it takes time.
What are the legal thresholds that you have for the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force? What do they have to meet to justify launching a full-scale investigation like this? And by the way, the cooperation with other agencies as well.
Yeah, this was involving Homeland Security and the local Internet Crimes Against Children's unit and multiple authorities. So normally, like I said, a flag happens, and then a lot of times they'll learn where these images are being shared. Is it like on a Discord account? Is it on some sort of signal chat, wherever? And then they usually get one of those persons who are hanging out in that chat room, get the login information, and then inculpate others through that. That's one way of doing it. Other times they simply will execute a search warrant. They then go into the person's home and they have software that says, okay, real quick, do we have enough? And then that'll be enough to then perhaps issue an arrest that day. And then they do a forensic analysis of the entire hard drive of all the devices. And then there's a lot more images that then become the subject of the 40 counts that he was ultimately indicted with. Now, remember, real quick, they usually indict for just the ones that are super obvious. So there are legal defenses. One of the defenses could be, was she underage? So they'll find one that's prepubescent to make it crystal clear, as an example of what they end up charging with. So there usually is a lot more than 40 images. I mean, that's been my experience 100% of the time.
And the defense of, I didn't know it was on my computer. Yes. I didn't know it was my electronic device. Does that ever work?
Yeah, it can. You have to have dominion and control of the account. So if you happen to be downloading, now I'm going to go back a few years, but remember this whole child pornography concept, or CSAM as it's called now, has evolved because of the internet, okay? So when it first happened, you could download stuff into temporary folders and you for real wouldn't have seen it, okay? That is an old defense, right? That doesn't work anymore because now forensics show it's like digital footprints. As soon as it comes down into your hard drive, did you touch it? Did you see it? It shows how many times you've gone into the actual image and looked at it. I mean, the digital footprints are pretty scary. These things are pretty scary. The Celebrite reports are scary. It shows everything that we've done ever. And most importantly, and that's another argument, is if it's in like a chat room and it was never in your, when I say chat room, you understand I want to talk about 2025 terms of art, but I think that's a good term of art to use as a generic term, okay? Mm-hmm. So whenever you're in some sort of chat and you didn't have it shared anywhere but in that chat, you could use the defense that says, I never looked at it, okay? And then it puts the onus back on the government to show that you had dominion and control. And I smile here because the government is slow. The government doesn't have the time, money, and effort always to prove certain images. So that might be another reason why some of the images go bye-bye. But what happened in this case is it was his email, his AOL account. I mean, you were accessing it. It's usually real obvious because you log in, you look at other emails, you might look at an email from, Costco or whatever, and it shows. And so you just have to show the digital footprints that he went in, checked his bank account, then went to his AOL, then looked at this image. Super easy usually for the government.
Now, before we get into how it was a negotiated plea deal, typically for a case to take 4 years, 5 years from investigation to sentencing in Georgia, is that uncommon for a case to progress that long?
Again, forensics. A lot of times you have to take the devices and send it to the GBI. A lot of counties don't have their own forensic group. So you have to send it to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and it's like one place. They've got to deal with the murders, the rapes, the pillages, whatever. And so they've got a large caseload. So it takes a good minute for the forensics to come back. And remember, they have to file the technical aspects of whether or not the image was on the hard drive, okay? These days, when you download something, you used to download the entire image. Now it's certainly aspects of the image. So you have to show other artifacts on there that are on the hard drive. So there's sometimes experts on both sides who have to analyze what's on the hard drive to show, did he possess it or not? And was the actual image on the hard drive?
Now,
technically complex.
Yeah. Now, Stapleton takes this deal, okay? So he pleads guilty to 20 out of 40 charges. What are the factors that would influence a prosecutor to accept such a deal? Because you have to think, did they have a strong case? Could they have proven 40 charges? But was there something about this trial? Was there certain aspects of it where they said, if we can avoid a trial by all costs, we will? I mean, why agree to him to plead guilty to half of the charges?
That I can't answer. I can only guess. Okay.
That's what I asked you to do. You guess.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
My guess is that they had enough to secure a conviction crystal clear on at least a few images. And so the prosecution thinking 20 to do 5, good enough. Okay. And he'll be on the registry for the rest of his life, or at least for the next 10 years, 15 years that he's on probation. Issue 1. Issue 2, there may have been some technical aspects here that were not useful to the government. There may have been other mitigating concepts that make it a case where we don't need to send him to prison for 1,000 years. I don't know. I don't know the specific case in the context, but I do these cases. That's kind of a par for the course type prison sentence for possession. You mentioned early on about distribution. In the federal system and in the state system, there are more penalties for when you're the guy producing it, or if you are then distributing it, or these things, the penalties are a lot worse.
And does it seem to you they didn't have evidence of him distributing it, or it was more about just possessing it, knowingly possessing it?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So 5-year prison sentence, 20 counts of sexual exploitation. Is that considered lenient? Is that considered average? Is it harsh by Georgia standards?
I'm going to give you just my own anecdotal experience. I've done this for almost 30 years now. That's par for the course, especially in Bartow County. That is Metro Atlanta, sort of. It's like, here's Atlanta, and Bartow is a little bit north of that. So it's what we would call a more rural county, but this urban spread has gone pretty far. So when you get to outside that ring of the main counties of Atlanta, they're going to be more strict, just the nature of the beast here in Georgia. So 20 to do 5 here in Atlanta is kind of the par for the course. To get probation is really difficult to secure. Have I done it? Absolutely. Again, it depends on the case.
And what does his life look after? What does a 15-year probation look like? What does it look like to be on Georgia's sex offender registry?
Well, let me get on my soapbox. Let me pull it out. I think the registry is ridiculous, okay? If we have a registry, why don't we have it for fraudsters? Why don't we have it for violent people? And so what really, really, really upsets me is inconsistent meting out of justice. So he will have trouble securing a job because you can't have a job near churches. You can't have a job near pools. You can't have a job. So difficult. You have a homestead exemption. So hopefully his home, he owns it and he can go back to his home. But if he doesn't, it's very difficult to find housing. It is such a nightmare. I cannot tell you. Again, I'm okay with the concept if, again, do I have a con man near me? Do I have a violent person around me? Do I have these other people around me? Why is it just sex offenders? And so the registry here in Georgia has done this. It's ebbed and flowed, but he's going to have difficulty. He's going to have a lot of difficulty securing work. He's going to have difficulty securing housing. And it is something he will be required to do while he's on probation. And then in theory, he can petition to get off the registry.
There's another aspect to this I want to talk about, because when federal agents descended on Joshua Stapleton's Cartersville home in April of 2020, the neighbors were reportedly in disbelief. Brian Canty, who lived across the street, described the scene to Fox 5, calling Stapleton as, quote, just a mild-mannered guy. Nothing that would even give you the slightest inclination that there was some type of criminal activity going on. It was Homeland Security. And I was just like, wow, what in the world is going on? I learned about the child exploitation charges later, and that just threw me for a loop. I had absolutely no idea. Meg, generally speaking, is that a typical response to sometimes, and this is scary to say, you have no idea who's in your life. You have no idea who's around you. You have no idea what someone's about, particularly if you're talking about a digital crime like this.
You never know what's going on behind closed doors. And again, soapbox again, 1 out of 4 females are sexually abused. I mean, that's a pretty large statistic. And so it is really scary to think. And a very unfortunate part of my job, which I absolutely detest, and I'm going to get emotional, is when I represent folks who are charged with this, I need to go look at these images. I need to go look at these videos.
I'm sorry.
They're horrific. I cannot tell you, I can't put in words how horrible they are. Okay. So when I hear wives talk like that wife on the video about, oh, he didn't, blah, blah, look at the videos, then we'll talk.
Let's talk about this, because while neighbors, or at least one neighbor, were blindsided or was blindsided, what about his family? Okay. Well, publicly, Stapleton's life seemed kind of untouched by the scandal. He and his wife, Brittany Morris Stapleton, they actually got married in 2023, according to a post on Instagram. This was 3 years after his arrest. They continued building their influencer brand, Gulf Coast Stapletons, and their Instagram and TikTok accounts, boasting 81,000 followers and over 1 million likes, showcases this glamorous lifestyle, their luxury vacations, yacht trips, high-end dining, and even as his legal case progressed, their content never missed a beat. One of the highlights that we pulled from their TikTok page shows a trip to the Bahamas in August of 2024 where the couple documented their arrival.
Guys, we finally did it. We made the Bahamas crossing, came from Fort Lauderdale to Bimini to Chubb. On the way over, had to make a quick stop in the Gulf Stream so the boys could do a little dive in and swim around. And as you can see, the most perfect day for a crossing. Seas were like less than 1 foot. It was glassy out there. Here we are checking into Chubb, and we stayed here for 2 days. More videos to come.
And also their departure.
Although we didn't make any stops, Josh wanted to treat me real nice for lunch and got me a bag of Lay's chips from the center console. The seas stayed so flat all the way to Bimini from Nassau. It was absolutely gorgeous. Obviously, Josh had to save a little time for a dance sesh. I guess that's his way of celebrating nice seas.
And most recently, on June 23rd, 2025, Brittany posted a video having brunch on a boat in Orange Beach. And the comments underneath that video are flooded with viewers asking, are you okay? Did you know? So as speculation swirled, Brittany broke her silence in an 8-minute TikTok video, adamantly denying claims that she was unaware of her husband's charges and saying she did know what was going on. She also posted this video to her Instagram account with a photo of her laying on Stapleton's lap. And the caption of that post reads, if this is the statement you're looking for, here it is. So we're gonna actually take a closer look at that video. But Meg, let me ask you about this. Legally speaking, is there anything preventing someone under indictment, if they're out on bond for serious charges like this, from continuing to live their life, post on social media, profit from influencer content?
Yeah, it depends on what the bond conditions are. A lot of times when you're charged with this at the federal level, you do have to surrender your passport, and there's usually Adam Walsh Act is what it's called. There are usually conditions to allow you to not be on the internet, not be around children, et cetera, et cetera. At the state level, sometimes you can just have bond that says pay $20,000 and go on your merry way. And I'm being a little facetious when I say that. That's not the terms of art that says on the bond, but there are no conditions. And my impression of this case is that he had no conditions other than to have posted the money and move forward and not obviously violating laws while he's on probation. On bond release.
If this went to trial, could the continued social media activity be used as evidence in some way?
Yeah, think Karen Reed. I mean, you put anything out there, you can put it out there. It's always my advice to not. And if this went to trial, they would have most definitely gone through that entire Instagram, TikTok, any social media, Facebook, whatever's out there that he posted, she posted to use against them. They'll comb it. They will comb every part because remember, they have the subpoena power. So they can get stuff that was deleted as well. They can get posts. They can do a lot more than what you and I can do by just looking at open source.
So you go back to this video, okay? And as news of Stapleton's sentencing began circulating across social media, Brittany took to TikTok to break her silence, responding to what she described as widespread misinformation about the relationship in the case. And in a lengthy video, she said her goal was essentially to set the record straight. So throughout the clip, Brittany both threatened legal action against online critics and insisted that she had known about Stapleton's child exploitation charges from the start. But she repeatedly rejected the idea that she had been unaware of the allegations, stating clearly that she was fully informed and claimed the relationship began with complete transparency. And not only did she seemingly know, she said, but their mutual friends knew as well. And she also pushed back on accusations that the couple portrayed a dishonest or curated image online. Take a listen for yourself.
I want to start off by saying that you are absolutely allowed to post anything that is public record, such as mugshots, indictments, court documents, anything like that, and give your opinion. But what you're not allowed to do is post anything that is a false statement that is damaging to someone's reputation. And I've seen a lot of it, so I'm going to set the record straight. But if I continue to see it, naturally, I'm going to have to take legal action because it's absolutely illegal. Now, this brings me to the first question I continuously keep seeing. Maybe she didn't know, or did she know? Do we think she knew? How did she not know? Absolutely, I knew. Josh and I were friends way before we ever started dating. So when the charges occurred, we were friends. You better believe I hit him up because as soon as I saw it, I have a really good judge of character, and I knew something was up. I knew that was not Josh. We had already been on several trips together beforehand. I'd spent pretty close time with this guy, and I was like, something's wrong here. Josh was absolutely upfront with me about everything in the charges. There were no secrets. I know everything. I have been to court. I know everything. A, it's been all over the internet. If you didn't know, you just didn't know. But B, we have never in our lives been at someone's house around someone's children and not let them know ahead of time because we don't want anything to ever look sketchy. So we've always been absolutely upfront with everyone. And guess what? A lot of these people have our backs because they have personally witnessed Josh around their children and know that there's no issue. People keep saying we were living fake lives. There was nothing fake about it. It was our life. I mean, we're just living like we always do. Anyone who is around us or has been around us on a normal day knows that was just us. We are still happy. He and I have no issues. He has been fully transparent and honest with me. Therefore, I know everything. I have been to court. I know everything. I can assure you that nothing about us was fake. People continuously say their lavish lifestyle was over. They thought they were such a power couple. All these things. Josh and I would never consider our lives lavish by any stretch of the means. If you know us, you know most of the time when we travel, we stay at a Holiday Inn. Our boat that everyone calls a yacht, 2005 model. We are not living some crazy lavish lifestyle. This was never a job. It was only for fun for us. We just enjoyed posting our memories and travels. I am one of the most mentally tough people you'll ever meet. Been through hell. Been through a lot in my life. I'm pretty mentally tough. Not everyone is. So I'm glad you guys chose me for this and to give me hell. Like I didn't just go through the worst week of my life. Like I did not just lose my best friend.
By the way, just for reference, we can't really confirm what exactly she's saying she knew, but it's clear, at least post-arrest, she was aware. Meg, what do you take away from this?
Well, remember, like she says on the video, this is public information. So the charges are public information. But I took issue with she doesn't have a lavish lifestyle. She may not have a lavish lifestyle, but what she posted was more lavish than what I live. I don't own a boat or a 2005 boat, okay? I don't own a pool in my backyard, so, or I don't know where the pool is, but there's pictures of her being in a pool. And so you post it, you give the impression of such, then, there is what it is. And she's also have pictures of her on a snowmobile. There's pictures of her, just enjoying life, like you said, going to the Bahamas, et cetera, et cetera. So when you do that, you are portraying a lavish lifestyle. So I thought that was a little weird. She's like, I'm not lavish. Whatever, okay? A lot of my clients who are charged with, you name it, there's this very, very fancy word called denial. It's really hard to deal with the concept of being arrested. It's really hard dealing with the feds coming to your house and doing a house search warrant. And so it's really hard to wrap your head around these things. But what I can't stand is when he pled guilty at this point, clearly he's saying, I had these images on my devices. That's, you got to say, that's the person. What am I going to do with that? That is what it is. She should have said that in her video.
Could she realistically pursue legal action, lawsuits, defamation, emotional distress if people are posting statements about her online, false statements about her online? I mean, where is the legal line drawn, you think?
Well, I mean, I'm going to give you my humble opinion. My humble opinion is let it go. Okay. I liked what she said with respect to on my page. If you're going to be rude, I'm going to block you. I'm all about that. Because we all know, everybody knows that even if I have 10 followers or I have 1 million followers, there's going to be one out of those 10 followers who are going to say rude things. You know what? I don't need that on my page. So I agree with her on that. Block them. You know what? Block, block, block. But to go and pursue legal action, I think that's a little extreme. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's worth it ultimately, because what is defamation? And then the key part is what is the damages? What was the damage of whatever defamed statement it is? I just think it's not worth it. That's what I would say if you came to me with these questions. If she was coming to me to represent her on those issues, I'd say, don't bother.
So are there any risks, legal, strategic, for someone who is closely connected to now a convicted sex offender to publicly speak about the case during the offender's incarceration or even the probation period? Is there a risk to him?
Yeah. Let's pretend he gets out in 2.5 years. Okay. And let's pretend that they post something innocuous. Let's then pretend that probation sees it and there's something in that video they want to use against them. I just think it's not a good plan, especially when you're on supervision, to be on social media and be posting like that, because we don't know if you accidentally post something. I'm going to be, again, just hypothetically, but let's pretend you're doing a day in the life and you happen to accidentally show a bong. Well, that you can't have a bong if you're on probation, all right? Because there would be residue on there and that'd be illegal substances. Again, I'm just being a little funny here, but don't put yourself at risk.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there. And I'll tell you, look, Stapleton, he's beginning his 5-year prison sentence. And I will tell you, I think this case just exposes a disturbing truth that, once again, behind the glossy veneer of social media fame, even the most polished personas, they can be hiding devastating secrets. That I think we've seen time and time again. Meg, great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it too.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.